Hello and welcome to today's rant. We're going to talk about three topics today: the Lakers, the Heat, and Blake Griffin. So the NBA season is in full swing now with a very interesting start to the season. In fact, you have to go all the way back to the middle of July where the NBA season really got its start, with the whole LeBron making the decision, going down to Miami with Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade. The Heat were projected to be this huge powerhouse. They were unstoppable. All the media were saying that they were just going to contend to be the next national champions, and that the Lakers were in trouble, and they're interviewing Kobe, and he was just getting so fed up with it. So the Heat are a really interesting story because they went into the beginning of the season with this huge hype, and then they just crashed. They lost their first game to the Celtics. They got off to a really bad start. I think they were 4-4 to begin the season. So that was actually really a huge surprise for all these people looking to see if the Heat were going to be this huge powerhouse. And now they're actually starting to get on track. They won 12 in a row up until last week when they lost. So I think what it was they had to actually get the chemistry, and you can't get that chemistry until you actually play in a real game situation. They had preseason games, they had workouts together, but you can't get that excitement and that chemistry until you actually play when it counts in front of thousands of people. Because it's one thing to play in a gym by yourself and say, oh, look, I just threw an alley-oop to LeBron James. And it's another to do that in a game and have it count and have other teams that are gunning for you because they know that you're going to be one of the best in the NBA. So it was a huge hype and a huge letdown to begin the season, but they're back on track. This Saturday, Christmas, they're going to play the Lakers, and we're going to talk about the Lakers in a minute. It's actually two teams going in opposite directions, so the Heat are on the way up, but I think that the Heat really do have a chance to be a powerhouse. It just took them a little while to get on their feet and to actually start winning games and knowing when their roles were, because you had three All-Stars, three huge players come together on a team and actually have to know, this is my role and I can't just control this whole team because there's two other players who want to do the same thing. So it's a very interesting situation, and I think it's actually a little bit different than anyone else kind of figured. They thought that LeBron was going to dominate, that the Heat were going to dominate, that Dwayne Wade's going to be right behind him, Chris Bosh, and it's actually had them settle down a little bit and actually take their roles. So it's been a really interesting beginning of the NBA season with the Heat. Now the Lakers are the same exact story, just opposite. They started the season very strong. They started 13-2, and then came to a screeching halt, and they're in the middle of that screeching halt. Last night they lost to the Bucks by 19. The last game before they actually go against the Heat on Christmas Day. So the Lakers are the same exact thing. It's kind of surprising because they're the returning champions. They didn't lose anyone. So in all reality, they should be really good. And they start off the season really good. But I think what has happened is they've lost a little bit of their excitement as returning champs. It's getting deep into the season. They're starting to actually work. Andrew Bynum just came back from knee surgery about 2 weeks ago. So that was a huge loss for them because how many minutes Pau Gasol had to play, making Odom turn to go to be a center for a few games. So just a little bit not in their usual game, and I think they were able to take care of that and get away with that for the first few games. But then they started losing, and they actually gained two pretty decent players in Steve Blake and Matt Barnes. So they actually came into the season with a really good team. They've cooled way down after their hot start, and now they're 21-8, and they've dropped out of the top 5 as the best teams in the NBA. So it's really gonna be interesting to see what happens with the Lakers. It's Phil Jackson's last year, probably. We never really know, but most likely this is his last year, his last opportunity to win a championship. So it's kind of a interesting situation because I don't really know if they're going to be able to pick back up, if they're going to be able to start to win more games. So we'll have to see. I don't think anyone really knows. And that's one of the crazy things about the NBA is everyone can say, oh, the Heat are going to be amazing. The Lakers are going to be returning champions for the three-peat. And to begin the season, the Heat were not good at all. To begin the season, the Lakers were great. And they've just switched I think that the Heat will win on Christmas Day. I think that they have more to prove that they have actually turned it around. But in the same light, the Lakers just lost to the Bucks by 19. Earl Boykins got 22 on him and made him look like Magic Johnson. So it's going to be a really interesting game. I think the Heat will win, but we'll have to see. One more thing on the Lakers, just a few interesting facts, is they've really only beaten one team with a winning record so far. They just won a huge 7 road games in a row. The combined record of the teams that they played are just 54 and 108. So they've really not beaten anyone of any talent. The one team that they did beat that had a winning record were the Bulls, who have kind of dropped off. The Clippers just beat the Bulls, so that will tell you something. So I think that the Lakers actually are kind of a lot of smoke with no fire so far. The last thing I'm going to talk about is Blake Griffin and how amazing he really is. I've been to a couple of Clipper games this year and actually got to see him in person. He is unhuman. He is so strong. When he jumps, he gets elbow to the rim. It's really an amazing thing to see. I think one of the biggest keys to him being so powerful is he was able to actually sit a full year with NBA trainers, NBA influences, NBA examples, and actually got to, if you will, have an internship, sitting on an NBA bench, working out with NBA trainers, just getting insanely strong. He really is a unique person. And looking at his numbers, if you take some of the NBA greats, rookie numbers, Wilt Chamberlain, Karl Malone, all these players that he probably looked up to as a kid, if you look at their numbers, Blake Griffin is actually averaging more in some topics or the same. So if that will tell you anything, he might be an NBA great. But that's later down the road. Rookie of the Year, he's a definite lock for Rookie of the Year if he's able to stay healthy. I don't think anyone, not even John Wall, if John Wall can start to be healthy, can catch up to Blake Griffin and be more exciting to watch. I think that's one of the biggest keys is he's this rookie and he's going against Amari Stoudemire, Lamar Odom, all these veterans in the league. And you know they have to be thinking, okay, I don't want this guy to show me up. He's just a rookie. I'm a veteran. I don't want him to show me up. And he is, still. He fouled Lamar Odom out of the game when they played, when the Lakers just barely beat the Clippers by 1 in the last 3 seconds of the game. Lamar Odom was just frustrated. He was overpowering him. Blake Griffin is able to overpower these guys who have mature bodies because, in a way, he has that same body as a 21-year-old. So Blake Griffin, lock for Rookie of the Year. I'm putting that down right now. So I can't wait to see the next few years with Blake Griffin and how amazing he really can become, because I think that he is going to be an all-star in this league. If the Clippers are able to turn around, or if he leaves the Clippers and gets with a winning team, I think he will really be able to lead his team. He's definitely a team player that teams can base their team around. John Hollinger on ESPN ranks players and how effective they are and how much they actually affect their team. And if you took them away, how many games their team would drop in the standings. Blake Griffin is one of the top. I think he's 8th on that list. He affects his team by 4 wins so far on the season. The Clippers are 8-21. They would become 4-26 if Blake Griffin disappeared. So that's a huge number, and I think that Blake Griffin is really an exciting player to watch. If you haven't seen much of him, go on YouTube. Look at his dunks. Look at his one dunk on the Knicks player where he just really looked like he jumped off a trampoline. So he's a great player, and I'm excited to see what happens with him. Next time on The Rant, we're going to be talking about college football. So the bowl games, Oregon, Auburn, and we'll talk about that and see how I really feel with bowl picks, the BCS, and how college football shaped up this year. It's the end of the season, but I think that it'll be a good game.